Hi there. Welcome to Life Between Coasts, the podcast where we dive into our personal journeys connected through synchronicities. So grab your coffee, light a candle, and let's begin. I'm your host, Leah, and we're glad you're here. Today, we sit down with Mari, and she has an exciting life journey to tell us about. So, Mari, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
And let's begin. So, start from the beginning. Just give me a gloss over.
The beginning?
Yeah. So where'd you come from?
Well, I was born in Okemos, Michigan,
Okay.
to two psychiatrist parents. And they got divorced pretty young. So that was a very formative experience in my early childhood. By the time I was 5, they were already separated. And then my mom moved us every year or two until she got up to Traverse City.
Okay. So did your schooling then end is in Traverse?
Yeah, I think it was seventh grade. We made it up to Traverse City, and from there we stayed from 7th grade through the rest of high school, which was really nice.
Just in one spot.
Yeah, there's a lot of transience early in my life, but I think it made me a lot more resilient as a person. I was able to restart a lot, and honest to God, as a kid, it was rough, but I am so thankful now because restarting has been one of my best traits, I think, where I can just pick up, try something new, shift my life direction, try something new, meet new people, make new friends. And it's just been a practice.
And just kind of sometimes just throw that faith out there.
Yeah.
And say, I don't know if it's going to work, but
it's going to be fine.
And that's where the
I've
universe...
done this so many times before.
That's where that universe steps in and says, hey, you're on the right path. This is what we intended for you to be.
Mm-hmm.
This is where we intended you to, to try multiple things.
Yes.
So why did you leave Traverse City then?
So Traverse City was great growing up. Honestly, I'm really glad I got to experience high school there. Mm-hmm. I had gone through so many friends groups that I had finally made a really solid friends group in one school, but I had a heartthrob and she didn't love me back the same way. And so my senior year, I switched schools because I couldn't bear to be in a school without her because she had actually left.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm just going to go start over again because that's what I knew how to do.
Right.
So senior year, I moved schools to a different school, also in Traverse City. It was just West was close to my house and Central was downtown Traverse City.
Right.
So I'm so glad I did that. I met some of my best lifelong friends there, and we had honestly the best, very free range kind of childhood into adulthood transition that I could have asked for.
Right. Now, what year did you graduate?
07.
07. Okay. So
007.
Okay. So you're about 10 years. So you're about 10 years behind me. So just trying to figure out age-wise and where you fall. Just because even knowing that area myself,
you can kind of picture where it was in that timeline.
And it's during that period of time, it's very quaint. Now 10 years
exploded now, and it's gotten a little bit more a little more ratchet, honestly.
Yeah, it was very touristy. It has always been, but just that much more, and
it's so much more touristy. And I feel like the gap between the have and the have not is so much wider now. It's really difficult to make a life up there without having any sort of formative schooling or accreditation or certification. It's just one service job after the next, and
not much.
Yeah, my best friend at the time was she saw it before I did, and she was a year younger than me, but she's a smart cookie. She was like, I got to get out of here. I'm leaving. I was like, Allie, don't leave.
Right.
I'm coming with you. So when she decided to go to college, I was like, all right, I guess I'll go to college. My parents had been pushing me towards it for a while, and I was really resistant because I've never been the purely academic type. I like a lot of academic interests, but actually sitting down to study and book learn has always been a struggle.
Yes.
And I've been like, I feel like I've always been smart enough that I can kind of like just cram before a test and do pretty good and be like, all right, that's good enough.
You don't have to be first in the class, I mean, C's get degrees at the end of the day.
My dad always said that. He would always say, C's get degrees.
I always push myself a little bit harder, but you know what? In high school, I graduated like with like a 3. I think it was like it was low.
Mine was a 3.2.
It was a 3.29 or something like that. But it was because, halfway through my sophomore year, so halfway through 10th grade, I didn't have to take math or science anymore. I fulfilled all my credits. But I did because I knew that that's what I wanted. At that point, I was a biology major in college. I intended. So I'm taking harder classes and higher classes that I had no understanding of and getting low grades, which affected my overall. And, I could have taken the easy route, but I didn't. So it's the challenge. Yeah, it's the challenge, but that's okay. It's the challenge and the pivot when you need to and not use, don't reuse that word. Oh, no, it's like, but the bouncing back and the resilience and even just changing high schools. One thing led to another, if you think about it.
Yeah.
So it was good.
Honestly, that last year was so much fun because I had already also finished all of my most of my requisites and stuff.
Right.
So my last year was all fun classes. It was German 2, Spanish 3, French 4, metals and jewelry, choir, and a couple open hours.
Oh, nice.
It was just a fun year.
So yeah, those are good. Those are good years. Just because you can float. I love to float. That's one of my favorite things to do.
Oh yeah, floating through life is the best way to do it. Yes. Try hard, but don't get
there are
down on
times.
yourself.
Yeah, there are times, but that's where you release. You can't be mad at yourself. You have to forgive yourself. You forget as long as you learn from your mistake.
Yeah.
So it's the not forget, but I always go back. You just have to forgive yourself or others, when something bad happens and it's really, really hard to do.
Yeah.
But that only frees yourself to be able to be present, mindful, and have that floating experience.
Honestly, these last few years have been that's where it's really gelled, the self-forgiveness, the forgiveness of others, but also cutting people out of my life that really I've forgiven a lot.
My new word. This is my new word. And in fact, we'll talk to her later. Probably, I don't know if she'll appear in this season, but she may be in the next season. But I've been working with a healer. So I've done 2 healing sessions with her, and so we'll interview her later. And one has been a wellness alchemy, and the other was just a chakra healing, and that's my second chakra healing I had from her. So just taking the plugs out. But one of her key words that she's been using with me is spigot. And it was turning off the spigot.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, you don't have to shut it right off, but just slowly wind it down, and you can re-examine what your responsibilities are. Mm-hmm. So that's a key thing because you don't have to shut it off. You can still have people in your life, but some people you do have to shut off.
Yeah.
And it's another word for, instead of using the word toxic or something that's just so negative.
Everybody has value.
Right.
I don't think that anybody is truly valueless, but the hurt sometimes can overshadow everything else. And you just have to be mindful of where your own heart sits and how much of that pain that you can endure.
Absolutely.
And also maybe I'm causing them some pain, and maybe it's just one of those balls that just keeps getting heavier.
Well, right. And there's takers and there's givers, and sometimes people take too much, and you have to cut off at a certain point, and then they get mad if you stop giving. And so you have to protect yourself because you're not, and this has been a message with everybody, I think, as we've talked through the different shows, is not any good to anybody else unless you say you're good for yourself. You have to
if you're sinking, you can't support anybody else who's drowning.
No, so everything that you've done. So now, did you originally come to this area when you left?
Yep. So I came to Eastern Michigan. It was my mom's undergrad alumni.
Okay.
She was an alumni here. But yeah, she was, I didn't really apply to many colleges. My parents really wanted me to go to college. And
yes.
I had already started ripping my car apart and putting it back together. And I was like, trade school. And they were like, you're not going to get through life without a 4-year degree. And I was like,
right.
I'm not going to pay for it. And they're like, we'll pay for it. Just go. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to say no to that. So
free education.
Yeah. So I really only applied to Eastern because I wasn't looking for anything really intensive. Right. And Eastern was actually one of the best like teaching colleges. So I was like, well, if they're a teaching college, that means they have good teachers. So I'm not going to be unhappy about that. So I was just like, yeah, I'll just go where you went, Mom. That's fine. So it was the only application I put in, and I got in, and I was like, oh,
Right.
thank God.
Now, what was your major?
French.
Okay.
French major,
good. Okay.
Spanish minor. It was originally Japanese minor, and that was a lot of studying, and it was really fast paced. I've been actually going back and studying Japanese on my own now, but I'm a self learner, self teacher.
Right.
It's definitely more my style. And so like, I wish I hadn't let it drop because I would have had a lot more like functional Japanese at this point in my life, but I wasn't looking for a hard time. I really just wanted to like get through it and maybe have a good time and
Right.
appease my parents and get that degree that I knew I wasn't going to use.
Right. Well,
But I figured like,
but
degree or no, a language is not something that like
communication is everything.
exactly. It's
Between
not
people.
something that isn't going to be useful. Like even if I'm not using it to teach or to like translate, like I still get to make French friends. I translate for some of my Spanish coworkers at work, which is really fun. And like I have a relationship with them that like other people can't because they don't share the language.
Yes.
So that's super cool.
The connection.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
you've created connection with those people.
So the languages have always been like, that's possibly like my only like true academic like skill, but it's kind of a cheat code because I grew up bilingual. My mom's Greek.
Okay.
So we grew up speaking Greek in the house. So switching languages was never as difficult, I think, for
Right.
people who didn't grow up bilingual.
Now, what made you stay?
The people. I think I found my family. I found my crew down here. Like I met my best friend, Jenny, in college, and like we've been through so much together. And like we've both left the state a couple of times, but like gone on our own separate adventures. But I always come back here because like the people here, they're my people. They're my maid family.
Mm-hmm.
And like maid family to me is so much more important than like blood relative. I don't know the quote, but like what is it? Blood is thicker than water, or something like that. But yeah, it's a misinterpreted quote. I know that it's misinterpreted. I don't know the quote, but
Well, I know what you're trying to say. Blood is thicker than water, and they're just basically trying to say that family is closer. But I'll tell you, I haven't had a
I think that's
family.
the misconception. Actually,
I think it is because you can't pick your family.
right? You don't get to choose your parents. They don't get to choose you. You just kind of have to make it work. But like,
And sometimes
yeah.
those relationships do work, and sometimes they don't. And when you have two psychologist parents, I think that could be rather difficult.
One, my dad is like phenomenal, but like he and I swear to God, like I look like my mom, but my dad's brain is what's in here. Like,
Okay.
the like cramming right before a test and getting like a high C or a low B, that's my dad.
Okay. Okay.
Like floating through life and making things work when everything's in chaos, that's my dad.
Okay.
But I look like my mom.
Nice. But growing up in that, now you said you were about 5 when they divorced.
Yeah.
That
was stressful growing up because like, the divorce was messy. It was really messy because my mom and dad had always planned to go back to Greece to do like half of our like bringing up there and half here so that we would be truly like bicultural.
Right.
But after the divorce, obviously she couldn't have full custody of us and like
Be able to do that.
leave the country or split custody of us and raise a country because you have to share. So that was like soul crushing for her. And I know it was like really rough. And like they both made really good money. So it was really like up to the judge because they both had good lawyers. And unfortunately for my mom, her foreignness did not work in her favor. Like, yeah. So it's okay. Like I speak enough Greek that I can like get by over there. I do lack the culture a little bit, but Greece is so welcoming. Like it's not a huge miss. I think my mom always wanted at least one of us, me or my brother, to move over there, but she's been kind of stuck over here too and trying to like move her life back there. So I have a lot of like sympathy for her because that had to be rough. But I'm really glad that we stayed here.
Right.
Moving overseas and going back and forth between that would have been, I'm sure in its own, it would have made me more resilient in possibly a more cultural way, but it would have also been a lot more like turbulence for sure.
I think so. Because of friend base and, just trying to, even though you'll have friends on both, it is a little bit different.
The integration of culture and friendships is hard, like, because I mean, I learned this in Japan actually. I went on a few dates over there. And like it was oh yeah, it was so interesting. But like the culture was very alien, but in like an exciting way.
Right. Well, it's interesting because my mister, he divorced. They had one child and divorced, but his ex-partner was British, or is still British. She's well and alive. But his daughter was raised there, so he would travel back and forth. But she started coming back over here, I think, when she was 12. But then I didn't come into her life until she was 14.
Gotcha.
But it was very interesting, and we talk about friends and things like that. So at 14, she would come over, say, for 4 or 5 weeks in the summertime when she was off school, and she'd spend that time with us, and we'd go travel or do something with her, and then she'd go home, go back to school. But as she got older and her friend groups changed, or she wanted to be with her friends because now they're going to concerts and parties and things.
Remember that.
And in England, you can drink at 18, and here you couldn't at 21. And, so it was like now that 5 weeks became 3 weeks. So it was just shy of, and less and less time with dad.
That
because rough. So I could see where that would be the hard part for you, because you have two friend groups and summers in Traverse City. Come on.
I never got to experience this in Traverse City until after I graduated because of the split custody. So my mom would always take us to Greece in the summer for 6 weeks, and my dad would take us to Maine for 2 weeks, and then to Florida for another 2 weeks. For my stepmom's family was in Florida, and my dad's family was in Maine.
Okay. Well, Maine's still beautiful. I mean, Florida's beautiful too, don't be weird. But the wilderness and the Maine things like that. I
loved it.
But a Maine summer, I would say, is comparable, except for they have moose. You don't.
I never saw a moose, but
we have elk, but I don't think we have moose. But you never know. Maybe we do. Maybe they're still hiding up on Royal Isle or Isle Royale. We don't know about yet.
But I totally empathize with the like missing your friends during the summer because like even though I was spending 6th or 7th grade, 6th or 7th grade, I might have come in halfway through 6th grade, on through like a year or two. It was 2 years after high school graduation. The only summers that I spent in Traverse City were those 2 years after high school.
Okay.
So that was when I really solidified that friend group because my other friend groups were good and I was able to like integrate myself more, but it was never the same when I would come back from being gone all summer. They would have had experiences, bonding, like
connections, inside jokes, things that you can't be part of.
Out on.
Right.
So I'd have to kind of restructure a little bit and kind of feel a little left out. And I did do a little bit of like group shifting, but like I still kept those friends. They just weren't quite as close. But yeah, my group of friends, my stoner friends after high school, they were such a blessing. I still love each and every one of them. Like they are, 2 of them have actually moved in with me, come down here and live with me now.
Okay.
Yeah. So
nice.
Dom and Faye are like 2 of my absolute best friends.
Excellent.
And they were both just like, yep, Traverse City's kind of dead end, looking for a little bit of a fresh start. And it's like, I miss you guys.
And we joke, and Ypsilanti. So you've been down here since then.
2010.
So 10. So you've been here for 15 years. So you've seen the shift. Yeah. So I mean, you see a lot of the neighborhoods that were blue collar. You see a lot of the shift. I
miss the music venues.
Yeah,
rest in peace, Woodruff's, Crossroads.
I know, right? So
Maystone.
But we've also seen, the population at Eastern die. Literally, I mean, they're at 10,000 enrollment. I mean, just over based on the last year's numbers.
Yeah,
And when you were a student, or 2002, let's say 2000 to 2002 was there, they were a, 24, 25,000 student population. I mean, you're talking a third of it. So you're losing all of this. So a lot of these venues just can't support it because the Ann Arbor kids don't come into it.
And also COVID. Like COVID shut down a bunch of things. And yeah, I think it's just been like everybody just goes to Detroit for like events now because it is a hop, skip, and a jump away.
It is 45 minutes quick there. And then they do the bus, the day bus thing that you can do. So that's nice, especially if you're going to have a drink or something.
Right.
But at the same time, you're right. I mean, and they describe Ipsy as, and I said this before, as the Brooklyn to, Ann Arbor, basically. But it's the artist scene. It's the creative scene. We are having a little bit more of Ann Arbor come in.
It's starting to feel a little bit more gentrified.
Yeah, it is, especially in some of the neighborhoods right around here, right around campus, and they are starting to filter over to where you're at.
Yeah, I'm seeing houses getting like flipped and stuff, and I'm just like,
here it comes. But what we're also seeing, we're also seeing a lot of the Detroit come towards Ann Arbor too. So that urban sprawl, they're just meeting.
They are.
Because so we're going to see a lot in where you are. That's where the Belleville, Wayne.
Yeah, the Belleville's growing a lot.
And those three are going to become like one
big thing. I mean, hopefully our population doesn't keep exploding and rising because
but it's the university.
Can't handle it.
Not so much as Eastern, but mostly U of M, most definitely. But it's this has been rated one of the smartest areas in the country just because of the intellectuals that are attracted to this area because of just the public school system is highly rated. Obviously the universities and just having the professors and the number of libraries
is like what kind of like in like.
But I mean, if even a community college, Washington Community College, if you look at it,
loved Washington.
The professors are both Eastern and U of M professors, and they have their own adjunct as well. But they moonlight
college in the country. Yeah, I actually was putting myself through that and had to like leave because of a tumultuous relationship I was in and came back and tried to re-enroll. I had 2 classes left to get my certification and they were like, it's been too long. We're so sorry. You have to retake all the classes. And I was like,
oh, that's not right.
Damn. Yeah. So there's new technologies and stuff, but I'm like, can I at least take a weld test and like test out of some of them? And they were like, nope. I was like, cool.
Yeah. So but that kind of led you to what you want to do next. So what's that seed that you planted that you were telling me about?
The seed that was planted last year was Dom, actually, who came down and lived with me. One of his friends just got out of the military.
Okay.
And he came over to like hang out with Dom and reconnect. And he was like, yeah, it's great. And like, oh, there's a lot more like older people now because like they reached the age limit. So, like, I didn't feel like I was in a sea of, like, children, which was nice. And I was like, wait, what? They raised the age limit? Because I had wanted to go after I graduated from college, but I had a big depression point. I had some medical issues that came up right when I was about to ship out. And they were like, you can reapply, but we have to, like, go through this whole thing again. And at the time I was just really depressed and a lot, like almost 90% of my friends and family were like, don't go. It's the worst decision ever. I can't believe you're supporting war and da-da-da-da-da-da. And I was like, but I was so motivated.
But joining the military doesn't necessarily mean you support war. It just you support protecting your country, but then learning skills and just doing other things because there's more to it.
For me, it was a direction because I've always lacked direction. I think the transient nature of my life has been just easy to pick up and start over, but I've never really had like a solid goal in mind. I've had lots of goals because every time I change friends groups and every time I have like a new city I'm living in, like new, like, I have new kind of influences in my life that like make me change my mind about things. And I'm like, actually, that's really cool. Actually, your ideas are really neat. Actually, I really like this idea. Like, and so I change my mind a lot. I think I think that's been a transient kind of like thing that's happened to me. So graduating college, I was like, cool, I have this degree I really had no intention of using. I know French. I can speak pretty decent Spanish, but I don't know where the fuck I'm going.
Right.
But yeah, so I had done ROTC in my last year of college, and the camaraderie, the togetherness, the oneness, the very clear direction. It was incredibly attractive to me. I think that was like the most like motivating factor for me. Like, yes, there were skills I could acquire, and yes, it would kind of set me up to have good benefits, and like it would give me good connections outside of the military afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it was the camaraderie, the direction, and like kind of also too, like, the challenge, like,
Yeah.
I was already, like, 26 when I graduated-ish. Yeah, and so I was already a little older, like, going into the military. I wasn't, like, fresh out of high school or nothing. So, I was already, like, pushing myself to, like, keep up. I was really proud of myself. I had, like, 3 pull-ups I could do, and I could keep up with the push-ups and the running with all of the guys.
Right.
So, I was like, "Yes, I'm doing this, I'm doing this," and then all that happened, and I fell into a depression, and I was like, "I don't know what I wanna do with my life," and I did pick up the pieces and, like, ended up learning a lot of skills, which I'm incredibly grateful for. So I'm actually, like, glad I didn't go in then. I really hope I make it in this time.
Mm-hmm.
Crossing my fingers, but
And so what leg of the military?
Navy.
Navy.
Yeah.
And the Navy will teach you to do what?
I'm hoping I get the welding certification that I missed out on finishing earlier and really don't want to start over. Like,
No, I
it's
understand.
double the price now, and it's like, I think it's like 2 more classes than it would have been had I just finished back when I did.
But the training that you would get with the military
It's
is,
good physical workout. It'll be great for me, like, not letting my, like, muscles fall into atrophy again. That was
and what was
a
the
trip.
one skill that you were telling me that you would be just absolutely
I would die happy if I could be on a submarine.
yes. And doing underwater
Yes.
repairs.
Yes.
I had no idea.
Claustrophilic.
You
Like, I'm claustrophilic. I love feeling like that safe fear where, like, if you do everything correctly, if you make sure your tanks are good, if you go through your checklists, if you do everything
Safety is key.
properly, safety is key. But then having that, like, inky blackness surround you and just, like,
Yeah.
it feels like you're in space. Everything feels both like it's crushing in on you and miles away and at your fingertips. It's just like I have no I have no, like, I can't put it into words. It's just one of the best feelings I've ever had is, like, night diving and, like, walking alone in the woods with no moon out. Like, it's, I don't know, bliss.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because it's such the unexplored depths.
See,
You know, think of the ocean. I mean, we can snorkel and we can see the ground and we can do the
and we can
things.
scuba, but, like, there's only so far we can go. It's
But when you're
an
in
alien planet down there.
I know I have an old under the sea kind of book from like a National Geographic kind of thing, picture book from the 1970s. And it's when they were first like discovering some of these like weird looking creatures.
Oh, I love how
and they're
quickly outdated everything gets there too. I have some
Yep.
old eyewitness like cassette video VHS tapes, and we watch them sometimes for funsies when we're just like after like
not only does the film look so outdated in the lettering and the script and everything.
oh, but the information is outdated too. But it's still just inspiring to see how far we've come in my lifetime and your lifetime and in like our like textbooks lifetimes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we're now when have you taken the steps to do this yet?
Yes and no.
Yes.
So I've talked to a recruiter. I know what steps I have to take because I actually did do all of the things beforehand.
Right.
But I went and talked to him about the medical thing that precluded me from joining the first time. And he said, it should be fine. As long as you pass boot camp, it should be okay.
Excellent.
So I have to wait for Jenny's wedding, my best friend from college. I told her and she was kind of upset. She was like, Mari, you cannot miss my wedding. I was like, okay, I'll wait until your wedding.
Wait.
And then I'm joining.
So when is the wedding?
It is the week before Memorial Day next year.
Okay.
So I
sometime
have,
in 2026.
yep, 1 year to really get in shape, continue to like fix the hip atrophy that I accrued for my baby girl troll.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh,
So let's talk about that. So
yeah.
you kind of put your life on hold for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then you went on a discovery trip, and literally 2 days ago, I was like, Mari, hey, are you coming in? And she's like, yeah, I just got back from Japan. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like,
In the customs line.
and I didn't realize that literally you had just gotten off that plane when I texted you. So that was the universe, because I had your name and numbers sitting right next to me, going, call Mari, call Mari, call Mari. And I just hadn't for the last few weeks. And then it was like,
you have gotten voicemail.
Absolutely.
I don't even know if you could have left a voicemail though, because my phone's so old, I couldn't have a digital SIM.
Okay.
So I had to take out my SIM card and put in a SIM chip, but
Right.
it was only for data.
Yeah.
Didn't have phone calls.
Right. So we wouldn't have been able to connect.
Connect.
And so it was perfect timing. So I think that was the universe was saying, okay, she needs to tell her story. She's got a few days off before she has to go back to work now that she's just gotten back after a month in Japan. So we're going to touch on that. So let's talk about first you putting your life on hold.
Yeah.
And then how you kind of had to go rediscover and take care of you for the month and then coming back.
So my life got put on hold. I put my life on hold, rather.
Chose to.
I chose to for Troll. My kitty, honestly, she was my soulmate in my adult life. Like, she and I traveled everywhere together. We moved out to North Dakota together. We moved to Madison together. Her and I went on road trips together. We would go camping together. I snuck her into a music festival one time. Like, that girl and I, we still share a soul.
Yeah.
Like, I feel her presence everywhere. And like, I can't even believe it's been 2 years. It feels like it was yesterday. I had to say goodbye to her physical form. But she, and when I got the diagnosis, because like she was starting to like eat less and I didn't know what was going on, and I took her to the vet and they said that she had cancer. And she was 16 when she was diagnosed, and until she got really bad, like, I was still working. But when things started to get rough, I told my boss, I was like, listen, I'm going to do end of life care for her. Like, I'm going to cash out my 401k and I hope you hire me back, but if you don't, I'll be fine. And he was like, no, we want you back. I was like, okay, cool. That's awesome. So me and Troll, she lived for another like 8 months after that. So like almost 2 years after her cancer diagnosis, she lived 2 years after she was diagnosed, which is, she did not want to go either. Like, neither one of us wanted to say bye. But yeah, so we existed on the couch together. I was her lap. I would take her on strolls. I bought a baby stroller and I would put her in there, and she loved it. She loved going on walks. We would go on walks every night around the neighborhood, just like one block in like all 4 directions. And like, she didn't have the energy, but like, she really loved being outside and she loved going on walks with me. And I wish I had known that, like, I wish I had like thought of it before. Like, we would always hang out on the porch together. She was never like running away. Like, if I was outside, she wanted to be outside. If I was inside, she wanted to be inside. Like, I never had to worry about where she was. She was actually my snake's keeper. Anytime I was like doing things and like cleaning his tank, or I would have him out, I'd just put him in the yard and she would just sit right next to him. And like, when he would move, she would get up and move and sit right next to him. So I would never have to worry about where he was, because I would be like, oh, Troll's hanging out with him. We're good.
Yeah.
It's like the best big sister. But yeah, so sitting on the couch for 8 months, I did not realize I was healthy beforehand, and I had no idea what atrophy felt like, and I learned very quickly after Troll passed. I went straight back to work, just be out of the house, get my mind off things, and I threw out my back really fast because I'm used to lifting heavy things, and I got back, and that was not an okay thing to do. And after about a year, it took about a year to rehabilitate my lower back. And during that time, like, I was just doing lower back rehab. I didn't even realize that my hip was ultra messed up too. So after my back got fixed, I started going back to the gym again, and I realized how weak my left hip was. And I was absolutely like, I was like, I'll just work harder and it'll come back. And I kept on re-injuring it. And I finally had to go back to
Right.
physical therapy again. And I was like, this is so frustrating. Because I'm very much like a tough love on myself kind of person. Like, if it's broke, fix it now, fix it immediately. And that's not how
Minor surgeries. Yeah, here.
Yeah. That's not how rehabilitating muscles works.
Right.
So it's been another journey, like rehabilitating my hip.
Yeah.
And actually what rehabilitated it the best was the Japan trip, was walking every single day, like tens of thousands of steps every single day.
Right.
And my hip is like, I can sit on my feet again. I'm fidgeting again. Like,
Right.
it used to be like I could not sit on the couch for longer than 20 minutes without my back or my hips hurting.
Having to move.
Yeah. So I would just be like doing things around the house and like staying busy and going out a lot and basically like avoiding any form of sedentary lifestyle.
Right.
Out of the pain, actually. Like, it wasn't like I wanted to relax. There was a lot of times that I was like, God, I can't wait till I can sit on the couch again.
Yes.
But yeah, we're finally here.
But
Sitting on a
right,
couch.
you are, but you're but pushing yourself, and now it's
Pushing myself gently. I'm learning how to be much more accommodating and patient, and it has been a struggle.
It's the hardest thing because during the experience that I had with the Lyme disease, I was being a gardener, but I love manual labor. I mean, I'm talking like I like the landscaping. I like the hard, like digging your zealots, and all of that. And I was out there, and when I could barely dig a hole to plant a plant, I mean, just like a 1 gallon bucket or whatever. I was like, my shoulders hurt. I couldn't do the force to dig a hole. And I was like, what in the heck is wrong with me? And then you get frustrated because you can't do those things. And then you're like, and at that point, I had no idea what was wrong with me.
Right.
So it was just like, all I knew is I was tired and I couldn't dig a hole.
That's insane.
I
can't like that. I'm glad that this happened to me young, honestly, because it really put the fear of like not taking care of myself into me. Like,
muscle atrophy is a key mechanism for growing older.
Yeah.
You have to have muscle if you want to live beyond 75. I'm just picking a number. There's no science around that. If you want to live beyond what the life expectancy is, you need to have muscles to do it, because the muscle atrophy is that's what slows you down. And then when you stop, an object in motion stays in motion. As soon as you sit your butt down on that couch and do nothing, as you saw for 8 months, but you dedicated your life to your soulmate.
Yeah.
And it was worth it. Not everybody has that opportunity to do that.
I feel incredibly blessed that both like I was able to like leave my job and come back to it and have that sort of like stability that I knew like it's a good paying job and it's interesting work and I love the people that I work with. So I was really grateful that he was willing to hire me back after that.
That's always good. So then
security allowed me to like really enjoy that time with Troll. And muscle atrophy or no, I would not have changed it. Like even if I did go back, like maybe I would have laid flat more than I would have been sitting, but like the muscle atrophy still would have happened.
Right.
I probably wouldn't have like overextended. Like this chair form,
Right.
like it weakens your back muscles a lot more and
Mhm.
also like overextends them is what I learned. So like had I been a little bit more flat, it might have been a little better. But either way, that's like I would not have changed
Understand.
being there for Troll.
Right. No, absolutely. And then tell us now a little bit about your trip here. So tell us why did you pick Japan? Well, first, obviously in high school, you did take that, or I'm sorry,
College, yeah.
You did take that. So, but then you pulled back because it was too fast paced.
It was really fast and it was really
So that
difficult.
was your first inclination that,
My first, actually, my parents did not realize what they were doing. They had me watching like the Miyazaki movies when I was a kid. My Neighbor Totoro,
Okay.
Kiki's Delivery Service, Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. Uh, but like, and then from there, I was always super attracted to like the Japanese animation. So like, yes, I watched my like morning cartoons and stuff only at my dad's. My mom refused to have TV. So we only got TV at our dad's every other weekend. But every other weekend, I would go and watch Inuyasha, Big O, Cowboy Bebop, Trigun, like all of these classics on Toonami. And my dad he's the best. He would record on a videotape the episodes that I would miss.
Okay.
That I would get the continuation and I would get 2 episodes every other weekend.
Oh, nice. Nice. What a good.
So that was always a treat. And then from there, high school, that was when anime started really infiltrating like the social like awareness, like and like pop culture. Like we started being hyper aware of like anime.
Yes.
And I used to buy this New Type magazine and I have every single issue that ever released in the US. And it was limited. It only released from 2002 to 2008.
Okay.
But I have every single issue. I still have every single issue. Perfect. But I was so excited for like, I don't know, there's just something about the way that they conveyed emotion was just so different from like cartoons that are made for kids. It always felt more adult, but it was still like targeted to kids. So like it felt more like impactful, more interesting, more engaging. And then once I like became aware that it was like Japanese, I started being really interested in Japan. So honestly, I've been a little bit of a Japanophile since I was a kid.
Okay.
And I just didn't realize it until like I got older.
Right.
And then I started going like in college, I took some Japanese, but even like, oh gosh, even as like a kid, like in high school, I would buy DVDs and they would have Japanese and English. And I remember my computer monitor, it had a really thick frame around it. It was, oh God, Sony VAIO.
Okay.
Sony VAIO I picture memory of this thing. And I had like phrases that I would be like, oh, like, tasukete kudasai. Oh, that means help me out. Like, and I would write it in like English, tasukete kudasai, help me out. And my entire like frame of my monitor was just covered in Japanese phrases.
Okay.
And like, I was
so very much in your blood.
Yes. I've wanted to like learn Japanese, experience the culture for as long as I can remember. But yeah, so I finally pulled trigger this year. Like my finances have been good. I'm like, I'm not getting any younger. Let's go. Let's do it.
And if you commit yourself to the military, this was your opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. So the last summer I was like, we're gonna do it.
Okay. So now you bought the ticket and you went to Japan for a month.
A month. Yeah, I did.
Just by yourself?
By myself.
By yourself.
Hitoride.
Yeah. And so how was that experience?
Incredible. Honestly, I could not have planned a better trip for myself. I had some like loose plans. One of my good friends, Mary, gave me a guidebook because she's like, you have to like make sure that you're not going to be like upset that you missed anything. And I was like, okay. But I'm very much like a, fly by the seat of my pants kind of person. So whatever happens.
I like trips like that.
Right. So, I didn't realize how dry my mouth was. Take a drink. But yeah, so I got over there and I spent 2 weeks in the beginning of the month in Tokyo, just walking around, exploring, learning how to use the trains, going to like different places. Like I really wanted to see the inside of a cocktail bar because there are these little holes in the walls. They're no bigger than this room, half the time. Like, and it's just so like intimate and cute, and the like bartenders are way skilled. Like you can name a drink and they just make it. But osusume kudasai is like one of the best things that you can say, because it's just, please give me a recommendation. Okay. So osusume is like what I would say a lot. And I just feel like, surprise me. I don't want to know what you're making. Just make me something nice.
Well, and usually a bartender has a good read.
Yeah. I actually had the first gin drink that I've ever liked on my second to last day. I went back to the first bar that I went to in my first week there. And I went back, I was like, oh, it's like, I just got here and I'm already leaving. Make me something unforgettable. And he was like, okay. And he asked me what I like. I was like, oh, I like whiskey brandy. Like,
didn't name gin, but he gave you a gin.
Did not name gin. And he gave me a gin drink, but it had lavender and lemon and a lot of things that cut that very piney taste. So it's like a very soft undertone of gin, but it was the only gin drink I've ever liked in my life. And I was like, wow, that was actually surprisingly good.
Nice.
So I saw him using the gin and I was like, I should have said something, but I'm glad I didn't.
Nice. Well, because you wouldn't have ordered it, and then you
would not.
You would have experience.
I've like, a lot of times there I would just look at something and be like, koreo kudasai, koreo kudasai. I don't know what it is, but I'll have one of those.
Excellent. And how was your experience just with people? Like
people were so kind to me. Like, especially, I think it was because I tried to use the language as much as I did. I would approach strangers in Japanese. I would bow profusely. I'd be like, please help me. I'm a little lost. Or yomemasen was one of my favorite things. It means I can't read. The kanji is too hard. I only have like 50 kanji under my belt. It's not enough to read. I can read katakana and hiragana, but those are just the syllabic alphabets. So like it's not what is on all the signs. So I'd be like, yomemasen. I'm looking. There's this one really nice lady in the grocery store, and I was like, I'm looking for yuzu, but I can't read. Can you help me find a yuzu jam? And she was like, oh, sure. This is yuzu. I was like, thank you. Excuse me. Sorry.
You're good. Oh, but that's so fun. Now, do you find that their society is more efficient?
Super. Way more efficient. They have lines at the train stations because multiple trains will come into certain train stations, and like they will go in different directions. And so there's actually colored lines on the floor. If you're going towards Haneda Airport, you stand on the blue one. If you're going towards Shibuya, you stand on the red one. If you're going to,
and that probably helps is much more for tourism than
it also helps keep everybody organized too, so it's not so chaotic. They love to be organized. Like chaos is the enemy of the Japanese culture.
Okay.
Everything is neat and ordered and where it should be and at the time it should be. It's like pleasantly predictable, especially for a foreigner. Like I think it's a huge blessing to be able to know like what to do, when to do it, how to do it. And it's very like, once one person tells you this is how it's done, you know that that's how it's done everywhere.
Right.
Like you don't have to like, well, up here in Michigan, we call it pop, and somewhere else they call it soda, and down south they call it Coke. Everything's called Coke.
Yeah.
So like it's a lot less guesswork when it comes to following cultural rules and norms to like fit in. I actually found myself, I brought these shorts there and never once wore, I think I wore them once on the motorcycle part of the journey. And but immediately I felt totally naked. I was like, oh my gosh, nobody is wearing like, also like I have tattoos and stuff. So it's pretty taboo. Honestly, I don't know if I would have gotten all the tattoos if I had known how much trouble they caused me in Japan. I don't regret any of them. Like, I love my tattoos. They're all meaningful to me in different ways, but I really would like to transplant myself there someday. And oh, these babies.
Really?
You cannot use the onsen, the natural hot springs. Culturally, tattoos are viewed as dirty, not only like physically dirty because you're injecting yourself with ink,
Okay.
and they have a huge cleanliness thing over there. Like, cleanliness is next to godliness, truly, in Japan.
Okay.
But it's also cleanliness in terms of like cultural appropriateness, because the only people in Japan who ever had tattoos were the Yakuza, who were basically crime lords. And the dissenters of like custom, even though they have like a ton of customs themselves, they were still largely like rebellious.
Right.
In terms of
Right.
like,
So they looked at that as the taboo, the negative, more
it's
the
dirty, it's negative, it's
the bad
Yeah,
individual
you're
versus
not-
the good individual.
you're not conforming, you're not trying to work together as a group.
Right.
And like, I learned recently that a lot of like the working together has stemmed from the isolation that they experienced in like the more ancient times, and how like if they did not work together, they would not survive. They're surrounded by salt water. Like,
Yes.
they do have fresh water and stuff from like the natural springs, and like the ice melt off and snow melt off. But the seasons are harsh. Like, the winters are intense. And oh, that's like a whole nother thing. Like, the rivers are drying up right now. Like,
Right.
every single riverbed I crossed was like bottomed out and like super shallow, or like only like a fifth of it was even river and the rest was just grass. Like, that was crazy to me. I was like, because in my like acquired culture knowledge from anime, all the rivers are full.
Right. But years of just like how the natural.
Well, the global warming is actually like heating up a lot of like the snow and the ice and evaporating a lot of the water melt off, and it's not reprecipitating as much as it used to.
And I don't know the weather in Japan, how it is with I know our weather, but so it's hard to, so it's like I know like, well, we have the Sierra Nevadas, so they rely on the snow melt just the same for the rivers and such. So is it much like that?
It's very humid because everything is evaporating.
Okay.
Like, it's just
Really?
There's a lot of like natural water and stuff there, but I think maybe it's also the city, but it's incredibly humid over there. Like, yeah.
I would love to visit. So that's when it's on my bucket list. I know several people. I know people have lived there. I know people that have visited there, including yourselves. And I hear just amazing, great things. I would love to go for like the cherry blossom.
Next time I go, I want to go for spring into the rain.
I'm in the tax business, so I have to wait till I retire. Right. So that's my only downside. So anytime I want to do anything in the spring, I have to think about that. But
you gotta
eventually I'll retire. I still have years, but
I could always train a Padawan for like 1 year, see how they do by themselves, and skip off. But I would go soon, because I don't know how like the economic future is going to look for us. And our dollar is very strong to the Japanese yen right now. So like, I bought all my friends like fancy, expensive gifts, and it felt really nice. Like, 2 of my friends wanted kitchen knives, and I got them some really nice kitchen knives that like over here would have cost like possibly close to $1,000 for the set that I got them.
Right.
And I was able to get both sets for, oh wait, I shouldn't say just in case they watch.
Well, hopefully they
much less.
And subscribe and share. Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. So so we have all these transitions. You've made choices. Obviously, the universe has been there for you and helped you float and make your decisions, and you've seemed to you lived life. You're present. You're present with your friends. You were present for Troll, and that's the hardest thing. They always take that piece of the heart with you, and that's always so crushing. When you lose.
It makes you remember that like when they take it with you, it's because your soul was never all yours to begin with.
Yeah.
Like, we are borrowing aspects of the universe to enjoy this iteration.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, so one of the things, of course, that we talk about, from just all of those changes, the ups and downs and the things that we have, music being our biggest thing that I think connects us all. So I always talk about our anthem project and what is the anthem of Mari?
God, it's so hard to choose. I picked some of my favorites. Currently, I'm deeply enamored with this new, this resurgence of emo. The group is called West Coast.
Okay.
WESGHOST.
Okay.
And currently, my current anthem is Spine by West Coast.
Spine by West.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to add that to our playlist.
Definitely.
What are some other songs that so that's right now for this moment and hopefully carrying you
moment
forward?
in my life. I'm so excited I get to see them in Boston in a couple months. I'm taking my dad.
Yay.
Because he loves he just loves hanging out with me. He's come to some of my EDM shows and I love it. He's so supportive. And he just, whatever I do, he's like, yeah, do that. Yeah, that sounds cool. Do that. Never has he batted an eye at my insane transitions and lack of goals in my life. So thank you, Dad.
But that's a wonderful thing to have that support. Unconditional love.
Unconditional. I feel it. One of my all-time favorite anthems is Shelter by Porter Robinson. That one actually makes me think of my dad.
Okay.
If you watch the music video, it's also anime, but it's about a dad who builds a spacecraft for his daughter because the world is ending, and he creates a virtual reality for her to experience life in until hopefully she finds somewhere that she can live, but he just sends her off into space. And the world just crumbles under.
So he's
such a meaningful song too, and it hits you in the feel.
I'm going to put that on there as well.
I cry every time I watch that, so I have to not watch it too much. I can listen to it just fine, but when I watch that music video, I was like, oh.
That was the dad song. The dad song is my I'll tell you, my dad on his ringtone song was My Girl by the Temptations, and he always finished the last line before he answered it, or he always answered it singing it. So that was the hardest song. That was to hear that was the hardest thing the first time, and but the last few times that I've heard it come up on my playlist or whatever, I've just kicked it up and just danced with it. It's like, yeah, I know you're here. Yeah. You put it on purpose, So
absolutely,
it was just him speaking.
Oh gosh, I have a few other ones. Well, Rez has to make the list. So Rez is my end all be all favorite musician of all time. Mm-hmm. What she does to my soul, I cannot even explain. She embodies that kind of unknown, comfortable fear that I so chase.
Right.
Going spelunking alone. There's a cave that I bought a ticket to, and they're yeah, it's relatively safe. And Japan is very much we trust you. They trust each other implicitly, so they trust you.
Yeah.
And they just let me loose in a cave, and I was like, oh, this is.
But you have to trust yourself too. It is scary.
So Rez embodies all of her music. There's no song that I truly don't like. There's a couple that I'm not as big a fan of,
mm-hmm.
but her constant just barrage of new music, and she also has changed a lot over the years, and I reflect on how I've changed a lot when I listen to her, and it just, I'm proud of her for not being stuck in a certain
mm-hmm.
sense, and just exploring new sounds, new ideas. So I think I'd have a really hard time picking between Dark Age and Spider on the Moon, but those two are like...
We'll put them both on there. We're going to put all their songs on there. All of your songs are going on that playlist, because like I say, there's a song that might be a lifetime. There might be a chapter. It might be a season, whatever.
Yeah.
It might be a moment. So like I said, we have a song for the podcast. We have a song. I have my life song, but then, there are those moments.
But there's moments that are like West Coast right now. I've been listening to all of their music, both albums. They have 2 albums out. They're a relatively new group. They came out in, I think, 2022.
Okay.
They're very new, and they're gaining traction fast.
Nice.
They are talented. They are incredibly talented. So I've put all of their songs into like a playlist. I just listen to their whole like album, 2 albums on repeat. But if I had to do one more song, probably it's old school, and it's also very descriptive of my life. I have like 6 more songs on here, but I'm just going to choose one more. Unbound by Avenged Sevenfold is like one of their few uplifting and like not emo or metal or like hardcore songs. Well, their later stuff, they actually have a lot of like very like introspective. They're the stage.
I think as you get a little bit older, you start
like of their early music, this is like the only song that stands out as like, I don't know, just motivating and positive and like fun. But Unbound is truly about like living life unbound.
Yes.
And I feel like that's super descriptive of like how I live my life and how I want to live my life. And you hope I don't stop.
No, and you see it. You see it. You see it in your smile. You see it in the because you said you had that moment of depression. You had that you had
the moments of depression.
Well, but you have and sometimes it's a moment of blues, but then you have the health issue, or and we're similar in that sense. So but you overcome it. You get over it. And always your way around. You propel forward. It's the improvise, adapt, overcome.
There's so much to experience. Even if you miss out on a couple of things, there's a ton I missed in Japan. Like you can't possibly see everything.
But there's a reason to go back.
Yeah, there's
a reason potentially to move there.
I want to so bad.
But you never know. And maybe the Navy, and maybe we join the Navy, and the Navy takes you there.
I really hope they.
You never know.
That's like they said that like they don't have. I met a couple of Navy guys over there, part of the rave crew. We didn't get to the rave portion. It's okay.
There's so much more, but but there's a lot of cultural things. So no, we'll have to have you back on all of that. Almost definitely
more about Japan.
And I'm certain that we'd love to hear about Japan. Well, just to hear about different cultures is important.
Great. So. I can tell you about France and Greece.
So no, because I think it just gives an insight to everything about how we function here and how people function in other areas.
Like how the language is like the mouthpiece of the culture, because how culture is experienced is expressed through language.
And you can't just go to the touristy spots. You have to get off the beaten path. Yeah. Go find those hole-in-the-wall bars. Or the restaurant that the locals only go to.
Also, I can tell you about the 2-week motorcycle trip where I just let myself get lost in the mountains.
Oh, that's fabulous. We're totally going to talk about losing yourself on a trip. Let's find ourselves losing ourselves on a trip. I mean, I have trips like that going to Sedona. I had one just traveling on my own in Key West and that. And I mean, so believe me, I love to travel solo because you don't have to take any care of anyone else but yourself.
Right.
And you can discover those things about yourself.
Right. And also like you don't feel like you're holding somebody back and they're not holding you back, because like there's always going to be a little divergence of what people want to do when they're vacationing.
Exactly.
So like the solo trip allows you to like unabashedly like make friends, change your plans, do things that like other people wouldn't necessarily want to do.
Exactly. So, well, thank you.
Thank you. Such a pleasure.
So much.
Thank you so much for inviting me. This is my first ever podcast.
And we're so happy that you're here to join us. So, and thank you again for joining us on this week's episode of Life Between Coasts. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to grow our community of listeners. And we'd like to thank again Mari for joining us today. And we hope that you have a great week. And until then, bye-bye.